Would you pretty please marry me, please?
Hi, I'm Jody, a virtual relationship and sex therapist based in Southern California. Today, I am continuing the Love is Blind series where I am going to be talking about Calabria, aka KB and Edmond today. So the thing with KB and Edmond that really stuck out to me is they feel like a perfect example of I'm choosing the person that I want, but not necessarily from an evolutionary kind of standpoint. We are animals. We still have animal instincts. And again, this is more of a heteronormative kind of thing, so please forgive me. But let's say in any partner, we have an idea of like what is feminine, what's masculine. And if you look at kind of like nature, it's okay, well, I want a male who is going to be big, strong, aggressive, gonna protect me, gonna provide. And I want a female who is nurturing, feminine, soft, and maybe holds their stuff together. But I think that for them, this kind of stuck out to me the most because Edmond is a very like emotionally in tune guy. He doesn't believe in being aggressive. He likes to express his emotions.
I'm just always the fucking nice guy, but fuck me up. I'm too fucking nice.
Yeah, maybe he had played football things in the past. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's not where he came from. That was one of the big things about Edmond is I give Edmond a lot of credit for when he was sharing his background of being in foster care and all these other things. Yes, it sounds like he had some great resources. His teacher that he was really close with, he clearly maintained or had some kind of, family relationships. I wasn't sure if it seemed like he did have some resources, but still with all the things that he had gone through, how he grew up and worked through those things from a therapist who kind of works that stuff often was pretty commendable to me. You definitely could kind of see some of those patterns kind of coming in to their dynamics. But I was a little bit worried about there was this part of KB who was able to be really soft and to affirm Edmond and say that's my king and into like those complementary roles that kind of like lifted Edmond up and made him feel confident. But then there would be those moments where Edmond didn't really pull that out of KB, whether, whoever started it, I don't know. KB became more of like a kind of parent. I did remember seeing that the KB seems to be a therapist, so I can definitely understand how easy it is to fall into that. And especially it's just kind of easy to get into that parental role sometimes. It really was not the best look for them. There were times where it was sweet. She was able to comfort him when he was struggling and give him confidence, make him feel wanted, which seems like a person that has been in the foster system. That of course is going to be one of the wounds. The want to be wanted and to feel like you have value when it can feel like to a child that you've been discarded. I could definitely see that coming. And then how KB of course wants to be able to move back in that kind of like submissive role where I feel like we all want that to some degree. We want to be able to be heard, but we also want to have enough trust with somebody where we can kind of depend on them as well. And I think that's where they were getting into a little bit of trouble with that. They would both kind of get into this like Edmond is more of like the child role, KB is more of the parent role. And it really was something that I honestly see couples do this quite often, whether it be pursuer distancer or like a child parent dynamic where both people are participating. Both people are choosing that to some degree. It may not be something that they're consciously choosing or that they want to, but there's something comfortable about it. We can all want to think that we're moving past these things, and maybe we are, but it's so easy to fall back into these roles that we're comfortable with and that we know how to do because they may have been uncomfortable for us, but they're what we've done for a long time. And I definitely felt that with them. I did really like I said earlier, the affirmations that KB was providing at times. There were times where it felt a little bit more like emotional coddling, like I said, more into like the therapist parent role. It would either kind of oscillate between that or like an extreme boundary and saying, don't tell me you love me when we're in conflict, don't do this, don't do that. Probably a little bit of room for something a little bit more in the middle there. The two things that really kind of came up and stood out to me was one when KB was talking about like the club example.
You're supposed to be my protector and you don't even try to say nothing to him. You don't try to move his hand. You're like security.
That's kind of what I was talking about in the beginning, where it really felt like she was trying to pull out that masculine aggressive part of Edmond, which is not something that maybe Edmond wants. I imagine that from Edmond's background, whatever that may be, kids that come from those kind of backgrounds, whether it be foster care or whatever it might be, like unstable families, there's always usually a higher risk of maybe aggression. I'm not using studies here for this, but like you just see it more often because they've gone through so many traumas and usually they're not getting modeled with a lot of great examples of what to do do with that. And you're also in survival mode, so you naturally either kind of go into your fight, flight, freeze response, and some of it tends to be the fight, where it's like, I'm gonna puff myself up, I'm gonna be aggressive, I'm gonna force my way into getting my needs met. And I'm really happy that Edmond did not go that route and was able to stand his ground and say, I'm not gonna put my hands on anybody. I'm not gonna go toe to toe with this guy at the club. I'm gonna ask for help. I'm gonna set a boundary. I might walk away, but not to get kind of baited into that, because I don't think that that really would have been a great outcome. It was a little painful to kind of watch KB kind of try to get that out of him. I understand there seemed to be a want for like that stability and, hey, like if I'm in trouble, will you kind of save me? But it was getting a little cringy there. And then you had the bar incident. Everybody's coming to hang out today. I didn't think that that was necessarily Edmond's goal, was to kind of out them and put KB down by making it sound like, she's this cold person that you're not getting any affirmation from. However, yeah, I think because Edmond doesn't really like kind of speak his needs, or gets a little bit intimidated maybe by KB and doesn't kind of reverts into that child. Sometimes that's what that looks like. We kind of start saying these little comments to people like, oh, that would be nice. I wish I got that too. I do see why KB was upset about that. I do feel like the response to KB actually brought a lot more attention to the issue and kind of came in a little bit hot and aggressive. Of course, this is what happens sometimes when we have protective parts, but I think that was definitely something that KB should be mindful of, that actually kind of ended up making the thing a lot bigger. You saw Edmond definitely revert back to that child state, kind of like, I'm apologizing, I love you, I love you, I love you, then eventually walked away and took the bait to kind of walk away. And that was a little bit of a tricky one. And then you had like the no sex before marriage thing. Again, this is all person specific.
So I gotta wait.
I will be honest, I do feel like I hear that one come up often, where people have a hard time differentiating between, well, but you're not a virgin. How come you've done this with other people, but you won't do it with me? And I'm a person that you actually care about. You'll give yourself away to somebody that you don't care about. But again, I think there is room for the nuance. I think there is validity on both sides. We still have to respect people's wishes, and we have to decide if that works for us. Just like in my last video, where the topic with Ali and Anton came up of like, do you accept somebody or do you try to change them? Communicating that. If the person's willing to work with us, awesome. If they're not, we have to decide if we can accept it, or how do we take care of ourselves in that moment and decide how to move forward. We don't necessarily get the right, especially when it comes to sex and things like that. We've got to be really careful about making it feel like we're coercing somebody. All of us have way too many sexual traumas already and weird stuff around that topic. We don't need any more. So I wasn't really surprised with the outcome for them. I was kind of really hoping they were going to pull through, but they didn't. I was sad about it. Seeing some of the dynamics that they got into, could it have been fixable? Possibly. They get to choose if they wanted to go on that journey though. But yeah, stay tuned. I'm going to be talking about the next one soon.